What's up, Inspired girls? Welcome back to Inspired, the podcast all about being designed for a purpose, discovering self, and being transformed by dwelling with God. I'm Jessica, and I'm on the Inspired team here at X Church, and today we talk about blank number 2 in our current mini-series, and we titled it, My Current Blank and What I'm Doing About It. Last week, we talked about fear, and this week, we talk about something completely different. And I have my friends Sarah and Rebecca here to discuss what that blank is, so listen in to find out. Welcome back to episode 5 of season 3 in the Inspired podcast. I have 2 girls on either side of me that are new faces around here.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah.
Yeah.
I'm
Sarah,
the wife of Pastor Jesse, who's the next gen pastor here at the X Church. We have 2 kids. We got 2 boys. They're the cutest little boys.
They are super cute.
Milo, he just turned 4, and Cooper, he's 15 months.
Nice.
So they keep me busy, but we have a lot of fun.
Okay, so and then you're home in the summers, right?
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade, so I got the summer off, which is the best part of being a teacher is having the summer off. But so yeah, we're hanging out, playing games, going outside whenever it's not raining. And
I'm living that summer dream too.
I know.
Yeah, you are.
Because I'm a teacher as well, but I teach online, so it's a little different. But I have 3 kids, which is still weird to say, even though my youngest is a year old. But a year old, I can say that.
Yeah,
she's like 2 weeks away. So I have a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, and a baby. But my name is Rebecca. I'm actually Pastor Zach's wife. Also on the Inspired team here. And so I do, honestly, a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like on Sunday mornings, I'm just like running around doing everything.
Yes.
Not everything, but doing
Just
a lot of different
high
things.
capacity volunteer here.
I also like to say that I have 3 like surrogate daughters that are literally at my house all the time. So you know who you are if you're listening.
I think you need to name them out.
Yeah, Lydia, Chloe, and Taylor. Shout out to you guys. Love you guys. Lydia's in the back listening right now. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Did I miss everything? Oh, I did. I also am like a part-time travel planner. Thought I'd throw that in there.
Oh yeah,
because
Disney.
Because I'm a Disney adult. I'll admit it.
Disney adult.
Jess makes fun of me for it. That's okay.
I mean,
I love it. I love it for my kids. Really, for my kids.
I love that journey for you.
I appreciate it.
I love that for you.
I don't know. It's so funny that you said Disney adult because I guess that's what they are.
I mean,
that's got pretty ears and everything.
That's pretty like extreme. I don't know if I would consider myself that, but I do love Disney.
You do. Okay, wait. Here is how you identify a Disney adult.
Okay, tell me.
Would you go to Disney on a trip with your husband without your kids?
100%.
Oh, I kind of want to do that.
I kind of want to do that. Adult. There's no either. You just.
But it's like Disney adults are like a fandom thing. It's like
they're like extra about it.
I just like to go.
I just want to go.
But see,
I just want to be there all the time.
I think that I'm like so on the other side is like, I don't think I really want to take my kids there, let alone I'm not going to go there with my husband.
That's okay.
Without my kids. But I do love seeing everybody's pictures. And when you go, you do send me all the pictures, the Mickey Mouse ears and the sunsets in front of the castle.
It's so magical.
It is magical.
It's magical.
Yeah. And so
anyways.
you didn't say that you did Inspired Team stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm on the Inspired Team as well. We're just kind of help planning the whole.
Anything that you see inspired wise, these girls are at the ready to help and move along plans and brainstorm things about conference. Speaking of conference.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So we have, if you have not saved the date or literally taken your phone and typed in the words in all capital letters, Inspired Conference on October 1st, you need to do that.
Do it today.
We have registrations going on right now on our website. And those are under events. And you can register for the Inspired Conference. It's sneaking up. It's coming up really fast.
It is, because like June's already over. And it's already.
I don't know how June is already over.
I know.
Just
halfway
started.
through July.
Summer's gone.
Yeah, that's nuts. Because that means school's going to start soon, and I'm not ready for
I
that.
know.
I mean, but I'm on the flip side, and I am ready
Yeah,
for
I
that.
bet you are. I bet you are.
With the 3 kids at home during the summer, they're really not, it's not bad.
No.
They're at an age now where it's not like super physically demanding, but.
When does that start? Because I feel like I'm for
what age does it?
Yeah, I'm forever.
I feel like I'm really
well,
far away from
I don't know. I think it was when my youngest hit 5.
Okay, well. Still got some time.
It's gonna be
but that's okay.
It is like there is just something special about older kids.
I feel like once you can send them to another room to play and not like
that's a new level
that they're gonna die or
yes
or choke.
I will say my 2 oldest are like that. Like they can play in another room.
Okay.
Now they fight, but it's
Well,
fine
gonna happen.
as long as
you
they're
just
not
put the
bleeding.
gate up
It's okay.
and then put your ear pods in.
Literally. I did that this morning.
AirPods. Oh my gosh. Trey makes fun of me all the time because I called them like earbuds for the he was like Airbud, like the movie.
That's the movie. Yeah. Oh my god.
So now I just purposely say them
earpods does sound like a natural flow. So I understand.
Earpods. I don't even care.
Whatever.
I don't
wear them.
I won't even pretend to be tech savvy, okay? I just
literally same.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, like we've got an Inspired conference coming up.
Yeah.
We've got Inspired circles going on right now. We're studying 1 Corinthians, and we've just got some more podcasts coming out in the fall, and we've got super fun something coming up for Christmas, and I'm not talking about it yet because it's going to be, and you guys have been in on that.
Yeah.
But we've got some really crazy things and awesome things coming out all through the months. So get ready.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, now that we're doing this little summer thing, we had the summer inspired boxes. Now we're doing a series. I don't really know how long this season will last, a podcast, but what we did talk about last week was within this season of podcast, we thought we'd do like these mini episodes, or not mini episodes, mini series within the season. And last week we talked about a fill in the blank. So the little mini series is called My Current Blank and What I'm Doing About It.
Yeah.
And so last week, Maria and Hope and I sat around a table and we came up with one word to fill in the blank. But here's the cool thing. It looked different in all of our lives because we're all in different seasons and different stages of our lives. So the word was fear. So my current fear and what I'm doing about it. And in my world, my fear was different than Maria's, and then hers different than Hope's. And so it was really cool to kind of talk about that. But here's the really, like the crux of the thing is we didn't just sit on our fears, because I feel like I could do that for a long time. But what are we doing about it?
Right.
Is the thing that we wanted to answer and really get to. But today, us three have decided on one word.
Yep.
What is it?
My current struggle.
I mean, if any more relevant buzzword in our culture today, it's like the struggle. The struggle is real. Yeah. It's a struggle.
Hop on the struggle bus. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to pick just one.
Of our struggles.
Yeah.
I sat here just like 5 minutes ago, being like, I don't know which one of the 20 struggles I should talk about.
Which one makes me feel less like a garbage person? But
okay, so we're just gonna talk about it. My current struggle, and we'll talk about what I'm doing about it in just a minute. But does anybody want to go first? Who was?
I can go first.
Okay, Rebecca, go first.
I'll go first. So my current struggle is being content and having contentment, which I was thinking about it like before we started, and I'm like, it is difficult to admit because it sounds like I'm not happy,
right?
Or it sounds like
like
I don't have joy.
Out the big word, and then people automatically just assume like, oh, well, she just might not.
But
that's why we have a podcast and 45 minutes to talk about it.
But I think the thing is that I've always struggled with like wanting more of whatever is going on in my life, or something needs to change, or like I'm going to the next level.
Yeah.
Instead of just being okay with like the mundane things of life, or just like, this is life. Yeah. Like I'm doing life and this is okay. So that's kind of where my struggle is lied. And I think a lot of it honestly lies within my job and like what I'm doing. I work from home. I teach online. It's not a difficult job. I feel like I can openly say that. It's a full-time job, but I'm lucky enough where I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, which is super great. And for some reason, I just have constantly been on the lookout for like, what should I do? What should I do? This isn't working, like whatever. But God has just been teaching me like, you just need to stay put and like be calm and just like chill out.
Calm down, girlfriend.
Literally, like, it's funny. It's like my oldest is not chill at all. Like I'm like, just chill out. And so I literally am like telling myself that, just like chill out. Like, you're fine doing what you're doing.
And being satisfied.
Yeah.
Like,
and like, and it goes back to like, probably stuff that we all struggle with as women, but like the comparison game of like house projects. Like, I always want to do this, and this. Like, I always want more, or I like want the bigger house or whatever. But it's like, what does it look like to just be content with what I have?
It's so hard in today's world too.
It is hard.
Thank you, social media.
Yeah.
I feel it's like by the end of the season, people are gonna be like, she hates social media, and I do, but I do realize that it has great things to it, great sides to it. Not many, but some. But I feel like it's a breeding ground for discontentment.
Literally.
And here, like when you were talking about this, it had me think about a few things. Is that I feel like we see this like pendulum swing within generations, like within like the baby boomers, and then now I don't know what order they go in. Baby boomers, baby boomers, I don't know, and then millennials, Gen Z, Gen X. I don't know. Okay, but what I'm talking about is that my parents were part of the baby boomer generation, and they, like, my dad was at the same job for I don't know how many years, and it was like as I grew up, we were raised. It was almost like it was that generation was like, well, we are coming off of the heels of like World War I and then World War II. And then you've got these baby boomers that are going into the workforce and they're finding a stable job and they're not having to worry about war because we're in peacetime and all this. And they get this stable job and they're just happy that they have a way to pay their house and their home and to raise a family. And it was kind of like the American family unit. You have one girl and one boy and a dog, and you live in a house and everything is just great. And then I feel like when the millennials came along, it was kind of like, do what you want and like, don't work for the man, work for yourself. And so you kind of just got to pick and choose what you wanted to do. Like we were raised like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And like, I know we still do that because we want to create awe and wonder in our kids. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, if we do have like this mundane job that pays the bills and meets our needs, then how have we got caught in the cycle of just being like, how can we be content if everything in front of us is saying, pursue your dreams, don't work for the man, have the man work for you, and what's next? And then we have this constant feed coming through our phones. It's like, I just upgraded my house and I upgraded my job and now my life is upgraded. And you're like, thank you very much. Bye. Unfollow. But I think it's so hard because we live in a time where it's so easy to be discontent. Because I struggle with that too. Because it's like, if I'm not doing enough. If I don't have something post-worthy, I'm not doing enough if I don't have something shiny and new.
I think as I was like sitting here listening to you, I was thinking back to like really my dreams as a kid and like what I truly wanted and how I knew that I would fulfill my purpose. And it was really to be a mom and to like be home with my kids and like be available. So sometimes it's as simple as like remembering like that really was my dream and what I really wanted to do. And so it's like, I am fulfilling my purpose. Like, this is what I always wanted.
Well, it probably like makes you ask, like, if this is what I wanted, I was not expecting being discontent.
Right.
Yes. And I think I also, wanted to be a teacher. Like, I strive to be a teacher. I think ultimately, like, mom was like my number one, and then dream. Teacher, was like my second, thing. And I have struggled with this idea of like my purpose has to come from my job. So I've been trying to seek happiness and purpose in my job. By job, I mean how I make money for a family, right? But I've just been on a journey the past year of like, my purpose does not come from my job. And I think that's okay. And it's still a struggle for me. Like I still feel unhappy sometimes with like what I'm doing, but God just reveals to me like, no, like you're doing what I want you to do. Like you're doing what is good. And like you're providing for your family. You're available to your family. So like, what's wrong with what you're doing?
Right.
So it's definitely been an interesting journey. Now, I will say too, like I find purpose and meaning and all that stuff from being a mom, but also I think it's important to remember, like, I get that from doing ministry, like at our church, like with the Inspired team, serving, being a mentor, having circles, like that is really where truly I find like my purpose. As well.
Well, it sounds like, I guess, like from the 3 areas that you've, like a literal teacher, a mom, and then serving others at church is like it sounds like God has just built you and designed you and wired you to be a teacher and to like teach others and to like invite others in. I mean, it's not only teaching, it's like hospitality because like you're inviting people in along the way for the journey to say, hey, like I don't have it all together. I find myself discontent sometimes, but also I'm here and I want you to come along with me because what I've learned, I know that you can learn as well. Yeah. You're a teacher. For sure you are.
Yeah. Teacher.
It's natural for you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I follow a lot of the same like trends as you, Rebecca, like teacher, mom. Those are my 2 big dreams. Those are my 2 big goals. And then, you kind of check those off and it's like, okay, now what do I do? Like if I've had all of these dreams my entire life and I've done them. I mean, the parenting part is still ongoing, but it's like I'm in that phase. Is it okay to be content where I am, or is it like
or is there a next level?
Yeah, is there? How can I be better? How can I do better? But also being present in the moments of my children while they're little. I'm finding that that's way more important than like, I don't know, like getting the house picked up or like running to the next thing. But they want to play with me right now. Like they're only little this one time.
Yeah.
So like being a teacher, having the summers off this time is so valuable to me with my little boys. My current struggle is a little different. And I feel like if I think back and I'm really honest, it's been my struggle for a very long time. And that's being like on a mental autopilot of just stuck going through motions, going through the everyday routine, doing my regular thing on Sundays, doing my regular thing through the week, and not really snapping out of this, just this like the basic settings, of you wake up, you do this, you do that, you go to bed, and then it's repeat the next day. I probably at some point it was some sort of like, I don't know, like coping mechanism.
Yeah, let's say
some
like
point.
Something like an armor, something or other.
And then it was like, okay, I've just got a survival mode for a period of time, and then I never snapped out of it.
Yeah.
And it takes mental energy to realize when I'm in it, right? Like when I'm in this mode of just going through all these motions, and I found that I'm very resistant to change, to uncomfortability. And so when something is in front of me that's new or different or a struggle, it's almost like nope, not going to think about it. Not going to feel.
That's interesting because that was going to be my next question for you is like, when you were talking about autopilot, I was almost like, okay, are you a spontaneous person or are you a routine person?
Yep, definitely very routine.
Okay. It's like it's like you're trapped in like I like routine and I work best and I thrive on routine. Yeah. But it can put me in autopilot.
But I can be stuck.
So what are the dangers of autopilot would be?
A lot, I guess. But
what do you feel like God's calling you out of, I guess?
To be more aware of what's going on inside of me, and being aware of my thoughts and feelings and emotions, and how those are perceived on the outside. Like the way that I'm treating my husband or my children can be a result of what's going on in my mind from being on autopilot.
Yeah.
Right. Of I'm just reacting out of, I'm not feeding myself scripturally. I'm not feeding myself emotionally or taking that time. And then my brain just will go, okay, well then my body and my brain will just kind of line up and say, this is what we do when we're overwhelmed or when we're stressed or when we don't have time or we're tired.
Yeah.
And it's just, it takes effort and energy to try to realize that you're in it and then do something about getting out of it.
Yeah. That's good.
But my first thing was like my husband and I were talking and he kind of helped me identify like the feeling behind it and like the words to describe that struggle. And then like looking back, it had probably been going on for so long.
Yeah. Well, I feel
that
like
it became normal.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times we have like a common struggle within us that kind of like rears its ugly head every once in a while, and sometimes we don't even know it's there. Like you said, awareness.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we don't even know that we get stuck in that pattern or habit or whatever, and then when we are finally find awareness, then we're like, oh, this has been going on for a while.
Yes.
Or like you said, like it might have been like a coping mechanism that you picked up along the way just to survive.
Yeah.
Because we do that. Like as kids, we go through instances. It doesn't even have to be bad instances or like abusive situations or anything.
And that wasn't my situation.
Like we all create coping mechanisms of one way or another to like so our bodies can function at full capacity, and sometimes it ends up being a crutch. And then we realize like, oh, my autopilot might not be the best thing that serves me. And so what do I do about it? And like, and it's kind of scary because if you're a routine person, then you're thinking like, how did I get here and how do I get out?
And how do I change that routine after it's been one way for so long? And going back to that, I think it created a fear of uncomfortability. It created a fear of, I don't like it when something feels off, or that I have to like try even harder, you know, to accomplish a goal or accomplish something. That's why I'm like, I don't set New Year's goals, because then I just have to work really hard on that, and I don't feel comfortable doing, or, you know, scary to do that.
It's funny. I do resonate a lot with that. I feel like a couple years ago, I was like, God, like that was actually one of my like New Year's words or like resolutions, was like, I want to live an uncomfortable life. Like I want to be like, I want to almost live in an inconvenient life for you. And I feel like
that's my worst
nightmare. That's the worst nightmare. But I feel like God has really like provided that, and I've really stepped out of my comfort zone and put myself in situations. But now my problem is almost the opposite of yours, is that I'm trying to do too much and I'm trying to have too many changes and I'm trying to like overcomplicate things when I shouldn't be. If that makes sense. So it is kind of funny that I don't want to say that ours is like complete opposites, but just how they
I think
do
it's different
connect.
ends of the same like, I don't know, issue.
They do connect.
I'm leading a summer circle this summer, and that was something that was stepping outside of my comfort zone. Like I've been in circles, I'm in the circle, but leading one was like, felt like God was telling me to do that, and I wasn't sure why, because I was like, I feel like I don't really have that much to offer to women.
A very common feeling.
Right? But I did it, and I'm following through on it, and it's been awesome. And
Isn't
it's
it
been
crazy
so cool
how like,
to, like,
you will probably feel more rewarded than anybody that you had in your mind that you're like, I'm gonna help. You know what I mean? And aren't you an Enneagram too?
Yes, very
like,
much so.
Both of you like helping people, like being at the assistance and like helping people get what they need and what, like whatever. And
I mean, teacher, mom, you help people.
You like, what is really freeing in that process is when we do things in the name of helping someone else, and then we realize and we build awareness that this is a good thing for me. And then you end up being like on the receiving end of your own blessing because you were obedient. And that's like really what happens when you're obedient is like when you really feel like God told you to step outside your comfort zone. And I've had a front row seat to your life to be able to see that, is that when you actually do take that step, you on the other end are like, you learn a whole lot more about God. You learn about his character. You learn about all like the inconsistent parts of yourself and the weak parts of yourself. But then what that does is it tees you off and sets you up for another level of surrender to him, because you're like, 100%. I can't do this on my own. I can't follow through with anything in my own strength, or like seeing how I'm not equipped for that, or I've been a part of a group, but to lead one, I don't think I could ever do that. But if you feel that nudge and you're like, you feel like God was kind of nudging you in that direction and to be obedient in that, then he'll always equip you, or he'll never like not equip you for what he's calling you to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that also, following through on that obedience, at least for me, it's my autopilot struggle, that's kind of branching out, like the kicking it out, like turning off that switch of, okay, this is outside of the norm or the comfortability level that Sarah has. So that's helping break down that autopilot barrier by just being obedient. And then it blesses me in the end, as well as the girls in my circle and other ways that I maybe haven't seen yet.
Yeah. It's exciting.
I think like the thing that both of you said that I was really curious about and like saw a common denominator for was the mundane and like the ordinary. And I love that you guys said that, because I feel like for a long time I feel like God was teaching me about the mundane and the ordinary, because I feel like we live in an extraordinary world, and in the sense of God created an amazing world for us to live in. I know it can be easy for us to look around and be like, this world is so bad and so evil.
Scary.
I do agree with that. But also there are really beautiful things in the world. And I think that God gave us that lens so we can see the possibility of what can be. And then so my question is, and like you hear people talk about it like with encouragements, and you hear sermons on it, like extraordinary, like you were created to do extraordinary things. Like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. But also I'm a mom and I have to have a routine.
Yeah.
Like, or else my family won't survive. We have to have some sort of structure and routine. But what I feel like we miss sometimes in this communication and in these messages is that God shows up in the ordinary, in the mundane, in the autopilot. I mean, even though you don't feel like he's there, he's in the autopilot and he's going right next to you. And so I feel like what both of you were talking about is something that I also resonate with like that God is doing some of his biggest work in the most ordinary moments. And for you, as in like being discontent, like I find myself there so often, and I have to remind myself, God is in just even those moments. And like, cause I'm like sitting there wiping bottoms for 10 years. And then I'm like, is there more to this? Like, because I'm pretty much feel like I'm not doing anything significant, but because I'm staying at home and breaking up arguments and diffusing people's anger and sitting people in timeout and cooking meals and cutting food to the size of a pea.
So small.
Yes. Like, and I just found myself asking in those days, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I definitely, I'm just like laughing because like, I mean, Sarah knows, like we're literally in it right now.
Yeah.
But like, that's one of the things that I'm doing though, is like, I invite God into those moments, into the present. Like, I'm not gonna lie, majority of when I pray is when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm washing something, when I'm switching laundry. Yes, like those are the times that I like feel closest to him, because unfortunately, like that's the time that I have, is doing those things. So that is when I feel closest to him, and when I have to remind myself to like yes, be thankful for those moments. It also made me think about how we're so present. Like, I think all of us are very like intentional moms, but we try to be in the moment as much as we can, but sometimes it does cause like frustration or discontentment because we can't see the fruit of what we're doing, and we're not going to be able to basically see what we've sown into our kids until they're adults
later in life,
or maybe like you're kind of getting to that point, I don't know, but and that's, I have to remind myself, I have a vision in my head of like what I want our future to be like, and the kind of relationship that I want to have with my girls. And so I have that like vision and goal in mind. So when I am having hard days, or I am like, this is all pointless, like this is all crazy, all they do is fight and they hate each other, like I know that down the road, like things are going to be like how I've always envisioned. And like God, I know like God has reminded me time and time again, like I'm gonna like fulfill that promise, that like goal, that vision, that dream that you have. And so that keeps me going for sure.
And God has reminded me in those moments of like all these ordinary tasks, this regular everyday, everybody has to make food, everybody has to do laundry and all that stuff, but like God has reminded me that this is the blessing that you asked for, right?
Yes.
This is the blessing that you've prayed for, and I've answered, and now it's your privilege to get to wash little boys' bodies and do their little laundry and cook them little meals and cut up their food really small. But and it's definitely not an easy way to think in the moment of a 4-year-old meltdown, but it's these little boys they were given to you as a blessing, and you're the perfect mom for them.
Yeah.
And this is your purpose, right? This is be content in the purpose that I've given to you right now. That's in front of you.
Yeah. I like that you said inviting God into those everyday moments, because I feel like where my current struggle lies is like, and also something you said, it said something about your purpose being tied up in what you do, and kind of like a job and a title. And I feel like, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but like when my kids were really, really young, I did a lot of contract work with graphic design, and just kind of did some odd jobs and everything to make money. Then once we moved to Ohio, I had my third child, and like I dropped all my contract work and went like full-time stay-at-home mom. And in those moments, like you said, like I was inviting God into those moments, because I was like, what am I doing? And like, I know like there's got to be a purpose to all this. And like, and it wasn't like I felt purposeless, because I knew, like, much like you guys, like I grew up and I wanted to be a mom, and I just wanted to have a family. And so in those moments, I'm like, I know that I'm here for a reason, and I love doing this, but also, why am I discontent, and why am I mad? And like, why am I mad that I'm not doing this or that or whatever? And like you said, inviting God in those moments allowed me to have a conversation with him and walk through it with him, instead of just by myself and my own thought processes.
Right.
Because it gave him the space to speak into something I needed to hear from his word or from his character. Because, and like, you guys are still in like the thick of the parenting in the young years. And then what happens when you're a stay-at-home mom and then all your kids go to school is that you suddenly become a non-stay-at-home mom, but still stays at home. Like, I don't really know what the title of that is. And there lies my struggle is, for so long, like, I think it's just natural. I think it's just in our flesh and blood that we find our identity wrapped up in what we do. Yeah. And I've had to spend years of undoing that mindset and knowing that my identity is who I am, not in what I do. Yep. And so this was a hard turn for me. Like, we homeschooled over 2020, and then my kids went back to school, and my husband and I decided that at least for this first year, I would stay at home. I would be available. I think that was another thing for me, was like, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be available. So I was up here a lot at the church serving. And then like the Inspired ministry was really birthed out of that. And I think it was because I took a lot of like my, like, I don't know, like my energies on like what you said, like teaching and growing, passions and what I've always done with my kids, and transferred it into like women. And like, I want to see, like, I've had so many women in my life pour into me. Like, I have the time, I have the availability to pour into other women now. So like, what can that look like? And then out came Inspire stuff, because guess what? I wasn't the only one that had that passion. And there was a group of ladies like you girls that shared that passion with me, and it became something a lot bigger. And now we have podcasts and conferences and all that kind of stuff, where at each point there's resources being given, and there's like talks and direction, and really just a sisterhood of, locking arms and saying like, God is at work and we are here for it. And so many times, like over this course of this year, it's been funny because like our boys have gotten into sports, and now like with them back in school and me meeting a whole lot of new parents because we transferred school districts, is the inevitable question: what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
And I'm like, I have struggled over the year, because
what's been your number one answer?
Well,
or what do you say?
Well, it's different every time. I don't feel like I stick to the same answer, because I'm like, I can't sum it up for you.
Trying to figure out the word.
And here's the thing, is because the world, and it's not bad, but the world, that's how, like, there's a reason that we ask each other that question.
Right. That's like the second question you ask somebody.
It's a standard in our culture. Like, what do you do? Because so many of us are defined by what we do.
Exactly.
And it feels like I'm a salmon swimming upstream, trying not to be defined by what I do, but who I am. Sure. And so in my processes, I've learned that people will be like, what do you do? And I'm like, I am a stay-at-home mom. And like, if I haven't described the ages of my kids yet, I usually just say I'm a stay-at-home mom, and like hope that I don't get the question like, how old are your kids? Yeah. And then I've also said, like, I volunteer at my church. I'm like, oh, I do. I mean,
That's
and
the
then
truth,
like
yeah.
people don't know, like, because people even think. I mean, you guys can like weigh in on this. Is that people don't understand what your husband does when you work at a church.
Oh, I know.
Because they're like,
being a pastor's
what
wife.
do you like do during the week? Like a pastor just like goes on Sundays, right?
Oh, I know.
Definitely. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
But it's not bad. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so people just don't understand how like a church can, like, you also do things during the week
right.
and you're working for a goal and you're setting
Just
up
all that
Sundays
background
and
stuff. Yeah.
And so like when you say you volunteer at church, people are probably like, oh, she's a good human. And then I've also said the word life coach, and I just laughed because I'm like, what is it? Because if I say that I like disciple women, or I'm available for women, or I pour into women, or I sit with women, or I encourage women,
they're like
what if someone said like, what do you do? And you're like, I encourage women.
Cool.
Yeah,
I know.
like, what
to
does
people,
that mean?
to people who aren't in the church, yes, that sounds very weird.
Yeah,
but yes, if you're talking to a group of Christians, everyone's like, "Oh, that's so great."
Discipleship and
but
worship and blah, blah,
say
blah,
all
blah.
the buzzwords. But if you're speaking to not Christ followers,
and so I was
it is
trying
a little
to find
bit like
the word, and the word was life coach that I
Yeah,
came up with. And
life,
Trey
that's
goes,
good.
you said life coach? I'm like,
wait, you
yes,
actually
what am I
told
supposed to say? So
I love that.
there's my struggle because I've put way too much emphasis and identity into what I do. And I think my struggle is moving between the line of like not caring what people think and knowing that our world defines identity in one way and Christ followers need to identify or define identity in another way.
Yeah. But we still have to live in this world.
The struggle is because I want to be like relevant and approachable and like normal.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? And so like that's been my
So
big
you
struggle.
get to answer first. What are you doing about it?
This is what I'm doing about. Okay, so like this is why I brought it all up, because you said invite God in the into your circumstance. And so I feel like over all those years when my kids were young and when they were in diapers and when I felt like what the heck am I doing? I invited God in. When I could, I read his word. I tried to develop a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, so many times I felt like I just wasn't doing enough. There I am again. I'm identifying with who I am because of what I do.
Right.
I felt like I wasn't doing enough, and come to find out on this side of have like my kids, you know, kind of growing up and starting to get like go to school and give me like a time of availability. I've realized that all those times that I have sowed in really slowly and steadily have reaped this time in my life where I can invest and pour into something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so I think that the crux of the matter was that I was like little by little opening my heart to who God was and what he wanted to do in me. And I remember praying like as a mom, like young mom, like I'm here, like whatever you want me to do, like, and I'll, like, what's next? I'll do it next. And come to find out this is what's next. And now I'm sitting here like, is this, like,
are you sure?
Wait, am I really supposed to be doing this? You know, kind of thing. So I think what I'm doing about it is I constantly have to go back to be like really looking at myself by who I am, not what I am doing.
Yeah.
I think, it's a little similar to what I'm doing about my discontentment, but I think I'm my most content and steadfast is when I am daily in scripture, when I'm spending time with him. And let me just say to all the moms with young kids, it is going to look different every single day.
Oh, for sure.
And that is something that I have learned to have to be okay with because I am a creature of habit. Yeah. Like I feel like it doesn't count if I'm not up early at 6 a.m. with my coffee and sitting with the, music in the background.
Multiple highlighters.
Yes, with my Bible highlighters, she knows. So it's like I have to be okay with it looking different every day.
That's good.
But I know that is when I'm at my best.
Yeah.
And that is something like my husband and I have talked about because I'm like, why am I like this? Why am I so crazy? And he's like, well, what are you doing for yourself? Like, what are you doing to fill your spiritual cup? That's always, and I'm always like, you're right. Don't you hate that?
Yes.
So that has been my struggle. And I'm still on that journey of like it's going to look different every day. Some days it's going to be when I'm feeding, my 1-year-old a bottle. It's going to be sometimes sitting on the couch while my kids are on iPads. Like it just looks different every day, and that's okay. I think God gives us grace in these years that are really difficult. I think also a big one for me, honestly, is staying off social media. I know we've talked about social media. I am on Facebook, so I'm sure that there are people out here like, you're on Facebook. But I am on Facebook, honestly, because of my travel business. But it honestly, Instagram is more of a trigger. Like, I'll just be very honest. Yeah. Instagram is just worse for me. Yeah. So it's actually like deleted off of my phone. Wow. And I've felt a lot of freedom from that. So that's another thing that I'm kind of doing about it. But definitely the big one is just I have to fill like my spiritual cup for sure and give myself grace.
A lot of
big
grace.
Priority. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah?
Well, I mean, I resonate with all the things that you guys have also said too. But with my big current struggle being stuck on autopilot, my first step was, to be aware of it, to like accept that is, when my husband pointed it out, I was like, no, that's not true.
Be quiet.
No, but
you don't know me.
Yeah, you don't know me. But you do. But being aware and accepting that, and then saying, okay, with him, somebody that I love, somebody that loves me, that knows me. Yeah. What do I do about it now? Yeah. Right. Because if I'm so long into being stuck on autopilot that it's so hard to see, well, what would different look like? Like, what would changing things up look like? So I sought out a mentor. A woman that I trust, that I love, that I respect, that's got more life experience than me. And I asked her if she would be like a formal mentor for me.
I love that.
And so we've had just a few get-togethers, and we got one later this month. But and I can tell that that's going to be life-changing for me. Yeah. Because it's somebody outside of my marriage who is seeing where I'm at, seeing my my attitudes, my behaviors, but also I'm able to explain my heart and my struggles with her. And she also pours in scripture and pours in truth. Yeah. And just saying like, okay, well, here's what we can do about it. Because it was honestly, putting a little bit of tension in my marriage when my husband was saying these things. But he often says, well, if I tell you something, it goes in one ear and out the other. But when somebody else tells you the exact same thing, you hear it. Truth? Yeah. You listen, you take it in. And I was like, unfortunately, that is true. So this is seeking out that mentor, and going through that process is also already been helpful and beneficial. And I'm just excited to see the pattern grow there too.
I'm like, and also like if you say like one thing or the thing goes in your ear and out the other, and then you get an outside, like having a mentor to like help you to be aware of those things will probably also strengthen your relationship with your husband. Yeah. Because then you can go back and be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And like, you love me enough to point that out.
Yes. But
I would just say that.
I would say that. I'd be like, I know you were saying this because you love me, but I don't need you to be my therapist. I need you to be my husband, right? But, and we're a great team. But I know that getting an outside perspective from a female voice, a Christ follower. I
would say it is different too, like hearing another female, another mom, even. Yeah. Like hearing someone go through the same similar things. Yep. Or someone who can challenge you from a mom and woman perspective is different. Yeah. Obviously, our husbands they know us the best, right? But like, there is something different about that. Mm-hmm. There's definitely like a connection that women have and that moms have. So,
well, it's like, good. I almost think of it like an OBGYN. Like, I want a female. I had a male OBGYN for my first son, and like there was some complications and everything like that with him, but then I was like, I'm finding a female because she has been pregnant before and has birthed a baby, and she knows exactly what my body is going through. So she's going to be a lot gentler and kinder to me. Is that not right?
No, seriously.
I chose a female. Me too.
I've had experience with both. I mean, my practice, and I will say I prefer the women.
Yeah, because they have some level of empathy. I think that's what it is.
It's just they understand. Like they just have a different. Yes, it's a different.
My husband is not a feeler. Like he's like, I don't understand why you're feeling that way. It's just this and this. I'm like, no, it's not, because I feel one way, but I know it's not logical. So here's where I'm stuck. But women are just tend to be a little more feely, emotional, and like can help you work through that. My husband's like, well, just stop thinking that. I can't. I can't. Sorry. I can't. Nice try.
I can't take that
I'm
out
not
of
like
my
you.
personality.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, I'm crazy.
I'm sorry. But yeah,
that's good. I mean, so
yeah,
we talked about scripture, getting into scripture.
Yeah.
And having grace for yourself when you can't.
Very much.
I think that's a really big thing. And then also like along with that, like it's almost like adjusting your expectations to what it is to know God. Because I think at the core, the one place that we can really find out a lot about God's character and who we are is through scripture. But sometimes time just does not allow you, or like your circumstances do not allow you just to sit with an open Bible for an hour and 45 minutes and read Ezekiel and recognize all of the end time implications that it talks about and how it's like really touching your heart.
Yeah.
So we don't always have time for that, but what we can do is that we can prioritize his word to where like we might not get to reading whatever we want to read, but we can like pick a verse from Psalms and meditate on it and like write it. Like I literally wrote things down on my hand because like I would be cleaning potties or doing it and I could like see it on like the back of or front of my hand and like I could memorize scripture. That was another thing I did when I had little kids is I might not be able to like draw application from a story that's in the Bible, but what I can do is I can memorize a scripture.
Right. I think something else super practical is to have something concrete that you're doing, like a study.
Sure.
Like I think not having a plan in these moments is when I have like failed in a sense. When I have like a structured study, either Word Go, which is how we're doing our inspired circles, or doing like a Daily Grace Co. like study book. Like whenever I have something, the Bible app, YouVersion. Like if you have something tangible and something concrete, I think it's a little easier to make time because you know what to expect. And not that it's something that you need to check off, but I do think it makes it easier for busy moms.
Yeah. Well, I also go ahead.
I was gonna say the only other like if there are days where I'm just like I don't even know what's going on. I mean my prayer is just I've asked God to like fill me with his Holy Spirit to guide my actions, my thoughts, how I speak. I mean, I feel like that's a constant prayer I have that I might not, verbally say, but that's just always in my heart. And I think he honors that.
Yeah, he does. I was going to say that, like when I had little kids, I wanted the time to be able to like know God. But it was just that time and circumstances and situations were working against me. And I would get frustrated with that and that's what kind of brewed some of the discontentment and that I was like, well, I want to be here, but I can't because I don't have the time to do it or don't have the energy to do it. That was a really big thing is because you're up in the middle of the night with the kids and all that. Like you can't wake up early in the morning because I literally have not slept any tonight.
Need the sleep.
And so I would get frustrated with where I wanted to be and like really truly where I was. And I think that, like you said, God honors those little steps and those small acts of obedience and those little conversations that you're having with him throughout the day in prayer or whatever. Because you will eventually get to a place where you can have the energy to think of a study. Because I think that's another great piece of advice is like, just like picking something that's already done for you. Like why reinvent the wheel and like a whole new study that you come up with in your mind that you're like exegetically pulling out all these crazy things in James or whatever when I can like literally just like go to a Bible app and like download a study on James. And that's like what I have time and energy for right now with the goal and the expectation that one day I want to be able to read scripture and like know what it's talking about and understand what it means and all that. And so I think that those like little acts of obedience along the way start to pay off in the end. And I will say that too about a mentor.
Yeah.
Is probably 3 years ago, I made that really awkward step of like actually texting a woman that I knew from Texas that like I had known in Texas, but then just like sending her around and text me like, hey, if like you have like 30 minutes, like I know we haven't talked in 10 years, but if you have like 30 minutes, can I pick your brain on a few things? And she called me and she said, like, I would love to talk to you for as long as you need. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Thank you.
And those first couple of times that I talked with her were, like you said, life-changing.
Yeah. The first time I talked with Becca Dawson, we talked for 4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours that we sat and talked. And it was so helpful in just that first meeting. I think that another piece of advice, like to anybody resonating with these struggles, is to talk to someone else.
Yeah.
I think like a friend that you trust, or somebody at church that you trust, or seeking out a mentor, or seeking out just a friendship or a relationship with somebody that you can say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I don't want to feel so alone.
Yeah.
What do you have for me?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to help me get through this struggle? And
I think the great thing about a mentor is, like you said, you talk for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like we all have, or we probably all have friends that we can like literally just sit around a coffee table and talk for 4 hours. But the difference I feel like in a mentor is that those 4 hours are going to be filled with God-centered wisdom.
Yep.
To where it's like, it's a divine thing that like, and that's how mentorship really, I feel like, happens, is that like if you've been praying about that step and then the other person on the other end that's like been praying for someone to mentor, because I'll be honest, there's a lot of women that have a lot inside them, and now like coming up with like the courage, I guess, to say like, okay, I'm ready to like pour into someone else is different. And like we said at the very beginning, like God will equip you for whatever he's calling you to do. But that's a big step for them, but it's also a big step for like someone to ask a mentor something, and it's divine, because I feel like anytime that I've really like talked with a woman or myself that has been in a situation where they want to be guided and they wanted to be pointed towards wisdom, I've prayed about it or they've prayed about it, and it's just kind of worked. Like I've been praying about that too.
Yeah.
And then the intersection of that is just godly wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like sitting down with a friend and chatting for 4 hours, because you don't commiserate in your
it's not just like a vent sesh,
right?
But it's
not a vent session.
Progress,
it's like I can see an active forward trajectory of where this conversation is going, and it's centered around who Christ is and what he's doing in my life.
And I want to be that someday for someone else too. And I know that if I can't do that successfully without having gone through it first,
right?
And I know I have a wonderful mom and everything, but like, I needed someone else on the...
Well, it's the same thing about like going in one ear and out the other. Like I know that's going to happen to my kids. And so right now I'm even praying for my kids that like they're going to have a male that steps next to them in life and says like, hey, like I know that your dad can talk to you about these same exact things, but for whatever reason, we say one thing to our kids and it goes out the other ear, and then like another person says it one time and it sticks.
Yeah.
Because that happened to me.
Yeah. We all probably have done it.
Yes, definitely.
But I definitely want to be like a mentor type person for someone eventually. And I know I've got to go through my own process first. But advice would be to just be open with somebody. Yeah. Be vulnerable with someone.
That's a good reminder.
To say, hey, here's my struggle, and I feel like you could help me through it.
Yeah.
So could you do that and ask for that help?
That's so good.
Yeah.
I like the episode that we did last week with this too. I just sat at the end and I was like, wow. Like I feel like it's cool because God uses our current life and our current situations. And the crazy thing is that we are one, like we're only one Sarah. There's only one Rebecca. There's only one Jessica. Yeah. And he's created me and knit me and given me these gifts and abilities and dreams and goals and propensities and all of these different things. And I have a different struggle than you, and I have a different struggle than you, but I can sit down with two like-minded women and say like, I struggle with this and here's what I'm doing about it. And it in turn fills me up and like fills my cup, because I'm like, well, now I know I have sisters to lean on, like when I am struggling with that discontentment, because you're walking through it now and you're learning about what to do about it, and you're learning about the autopilot and what to do about it now. And so we all go through different stages, like different parts in life. And so now I know, and now both of you know that there's people out there, and I'm sure like any of you listening, you can identify with this, and hopefully these things, like these pieces of advice of like what we're doing about it now can serve and aid you in finding that spot where you can really connect with God about it.
Yeah, my last bit that I was going to say is just remember, like anybody listening, mom, not mom, is that you're not alone. First of all, you have Jesus, right? But also, like, you have a community of women here in this church who love and care about you, even if you don't know us personally. You're not alone, and just find community. Like, get connected, get uncomfortable. Like,
so important.
It's not fun sometimes, but it's gonna be worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Well, thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Taking the time.
This is good.
I'm glad that you guys got to come. I know it like works better in the summer with y'all schedules. So
even with sick kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. 2 of them at home.
2 out of the 3
are down.
Down for the count, but it's okay. I'm here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming along. And
it's been good.
We're glad that you joined us today. Again, if you have any questions about Inspired Conference, Inspired Boxes, Inspired Circles, any topics that you want discussed on the podcast, be sure to email inspired@thex.church. We would love to talk about things that you want to talk about. So in the meantime, register for the Inspired Conference on our website. Go back and check out any previous episodes that you've missed on our podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening. Our hope is that everyone who hears these episodes, near or far, would know that the invitation at our table is always open. You might not be sitting at this table, but our desire is that you would join in on these conversations. So if you were inspired by today's talks, send us an email at inspired@thex.church. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, and questions. And as always, don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts.